Hello, Matrix. All right, let's have a conversation about if you fall pregnant. How is fertilization and implantation going to occur? All right, let's begin. All right, so first, fertilization implantation. Ejaculation occurs once the semen has moved all the way to the end of the male urethra, up the shaft, releases about 300 to 500 million sperm, all right, for one little egg. Let's talk why. Okay, so there's some pictures of the sperm. The eggs needs to be in the fallopian tube, so ovulation needs to have occurred, and the sperm to the egg is not an easy task at all. Okay, that is why we produce sperm in profusion. Okay, profusion means a lot of, and it is extremely important. And that is because they can go in the wrong direction. There's two paths. Remember, there's two fallopian tubes, but only one has the egg. Okay, so they can get attacked by the female's white blood cells as well, because remember that the sperm is a foreign protein inside of the vaginal canal as well. So it recognizes, and in some cases, there are some women who are completely allergic to their male's sperm as well. So it's also in a very acidic environment. So if the woman doesn't produce a pre-ejaculate or lubricant either, it's not going to flush out all of the extremely acidic, environment, and the sperm will actually die itself. Okay, until that one little sperm finds its way and is able to allow for fertilization to take place. Okay, so what is sperm? This is a diagram, an ancient diagram of what they thought sperm was. So they used to think it was a tiny human inside of each cell. So it was thought that we had the spermus and the ovus, which was really interesting. And if you want to, I'll try and find the YouTube video about how people actually thought they fell pregnant. It is absolutely hilarious. Some people thought it was actually like a disease, like if I sneezed on you, well, if you're a female and you sneeze on someone, they would also get pregnant. We now know that that's not true, so you can't use that. But the spermists believe that inside of the sperm was a little human being, whereas the ovists thought that the egg contained the little human being as well. And it was just an activation from the opposite. So the spermists thought that the egg was just an activation, and the ovists thought that the sperm was just an activation. When we all know this is terribly, terribly incorrect. Okay, so what is copulation? Definition: the process by which the penis is placed inside the vagina and sperm are released. Now there is a absolutely disgusting, I think it is this one, diagram on page 106. So you can see over there, there's some copulation happening that is in your textbook. It is hilarious. So in case you didn't know what copulation was, but copulation, fertilization, and is another word, should not be confused. Okay, so copulation is the process. Oh, there we go. Conception and fertilization. So fertilization is also known as conception, or when you conceive the child as well. All right, and there's some beautiful little pictures, and we'll talk about how that actually occurs. But please note that you need to start thinking about it in terms of, if one sperm gets there and is able to fertilize the egg, why do more sperm not try and fertilize it simultaneously? If 10 arrived and one got to it just in time and the other 9 reached the egg, why don't the other 9 also try and fertilize the egg? Okay, so let's have a look at this beautiful little diagram. I don't expect you to know this process off by heart, but it's just to help you guys. So at 1, the sperm approaches the egg. Remember that it has a nucleus, it has a cell body or middle body, it has the tail, and it has the acrosome and the head. So the sperm acrosomal enzymes digest the egg's jelly coat. Okay, so it needs to, remember, you don't want the egg to dehydrate, so it's got this nice little coat around it. And the acrosome releases digestive enzymes and are actually able to eat into the actual jelly itself, okay, or digest it. Then the proteins on the sperm head bind to the receptors, because remember, if there were random cells floating around on the inside, there would need to be a way for the female's body to actually recognize that this is not a sperm cell, okay? So once it binds, the plasma membranes of the sperm and egg fuse, okay, so fusion occurs, and this is why we're able to call fertilization fusion sometimes, or we say when the process of fusion has occurred. Then the nucleus itself enters the cytoplasm and allows for fusion of the egg nucleus and the sperm nucleus. We can see there number 7, the nuclei of the sperm and egg fuse, and then we have a zygote nucleus. All right, there's going to be some other weird and wonderful words. So at this point, we only have a zygote. We do not have an embryo and we do not have a fetus. They are time specific, so how long something has developed for. So then, if fertilized, the zygote begins to divide as it travels through the fallopian tube, implants into the lining of the uterus, and I'll remind you about why the lining is vascular a little bit later. There you can see that beautiful little zygote trying to implant itself into the endometrium of the uterus. But if you are not fertilized, the ovum travels through the fallopian tube to the uterus and exits the body with blood and tissues during the process of menstruation, which we just went through. Okay, so a little ball of cells. This is a process, and it would be nice if you guys could know it. It would be really useful. So fertilization occurs. Remember, not copulation. That's the process of having sex. This is conception. So leaving a diploid zygote. The zygote divides when in the fallopian tubes, known as the morula. By the time it reaches the uterus, it is a hollow ball of cells known as a blastocyst. Okay, and by day 9, the blastocyst reaches a uterus and becomes implanted. Blastocyst is now known as an embryo. So it takes 9 days for a zygote to be known as an embryo. I'm pretty sure that is correct. I'll just double check it. It might be a little bit longer as well. Oh, no, it's 100%. And then it's going to develop for X amount of time. Okay, so first we have this zygote, then we have the morula. The morula is just a group of cells. Then the blastocyst actually forms because the morula start sort of expanding and leaving an empty hole in the center. And I'll show you some pictures now. Okay, so over there we have the animal pole and vegetal pole. Don't worry about that. It's just the top and bottom of the zygote. Then they start to go through the process of mitosis, and you can see it might go through multiple replications until it eventually creates the morula. This is just a ball of cells, and eventually that ball of cells actually starts to not hollow out, but it just doesn't divide towards the inside, divides towards the outside and only on the poles, and eventually creates this hollow ball called the blastula, okay, or blastocyst. On the right hand side over there, you can see exactly the same thing happening, and there's an activity right at the end of this in case you were worried about any of those words. All right, this is just maybe a slightly better version of it as well. So you can see the ovary ovulation has occurred over there. The ovulation releases the secondary oocyte. This ends up in the fallopian tube itself, where fertilization occurs. Up the top right hand, up the middle of the uterus, all the way to the left hand side. In this particular instance, day 1, it's a single cell called the zygote. Then it says cleavage starts to occur. Okay, so this is where the cell just starts to divide rapidly. So day 2, day 3, day 16, and at day 16 is where we kind of call it the morula, and eventually by day 5 we start finding something called a blastocyst. If you want to go watch a video of this, you're more than welcome to, but by day 7 the embryo starts its implantation, and by day 9 we now have what we call an embryo. Okay, so implantation, by definition, is the process by which developing embryo becomes attached to the uterine wall. Could you also say endometrium? Yes, of course you can. Could you say myometrium? No, you could not. Okay, remember the myometrium is just the muscular layer. Remember myo meaning muscle. Okay, so the endometrium is what it's going to attach to. When implantation takes place, the blastocyst produces human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG. One day you guys will, if you fall pregnant, you will go for a test and they'll be testing this. The HCG ensures that the corpus luteum doesn't break down. So remember that in normal menstruation, if fertilization has not occurred, the corpus luteum is going to start disintegrating, which is going to reduce the amount of progesterone, which is going to not allow for the maintenance of the endometrium, which means it's going to break down. But if we release HCG, this is then going to, which is released by the blastocyst itself, it's going to keep that corpus luteum, which is going to produce more progesterone, and that is going to make sure that the maintenance of the endometrium is in check. Okay, the corpus luteum continues to produce progesterone and maintain the endometrium. So this is in case you forgot. The uterine wall has to be thickened, vascular and glandular in order for implantation to occur. The estrogen ensures the endometrium is thickened, and since fertilization has occurred, the corpus luteum secretes progesterone. Progesterone ensures that the pregnancy is maintained by ensuring that the embryo remains attached to the uterine wall. Okay, now to a large extent, and I mentioned this in a couple of videos ago, if the body stops producing that progesterone, or the corpus luteum actually stops producing it, then the body is actually going to lose the child completely. Okay, so pregnancy tests determine whether HCG is present. So remember, your body's not going to be producing HCG unless there is a blastocyst. So if there is a blastocyst, there will be HCG, which means that you are indeed pregnant. Okay, HCG can be detected about 1 week after ovulation in the blood. Okay, so a blood test is by far better at indicating whether you're pregnant or not, whereas a pee test or urine test where you pee on a stick, that doesn't necessarily occur within a week and sometimes takes a lot longer, and there it is, 4 to 5 weeks after ovulation, HCG can be detected in the woman's urine. Okay, so if you think that you are pregnant, you can instantly go for a test, for a blood test. But if you wait a little bit longer, but remember, if you wait longer, the probability of you being able to make a decision about your child, whether you want it or not, becomes far more difficult. So an embryo is developing a zygote until 8 weeks. Okay, so from day 9 to 8 weeks, you have an embryo. Organs begin being formed by differentiation in this time. So remember the body is like, go ahead, we're pregnant, like let's go, let's start producing all of these things. But eventually at 9 weeks until birth, we call it a fetus. Okay, this is where you are not allowed to have a abortion. Okay, and this is because growth and organ specialization. The reason why we actually don't allow for abortions later than 9 weeks, unless they are completely medical and put the mother's body at risk, is because the body has started developing a brain as well as nerves, and with nerves come pain receptors. So the idea that we don't want to abort something that can actually feel the pain is why we don't allow abortions later. Well, this is why pro-life people are living for, and that's why they don't want you to have an abortion. All right, so let's have a look at this activity quickly. We have 1 throughout 7. So let's look at what should be going in each one. So number 1 is just the ovum that is released through ovulation. Number 2 is the sperm cells. They're about to go through the process of fertilization and creating a zygote. We have the first division happening. This is all happening inside of the fallopian tube. We then have the balls of cells, and eventually it's going to create the morula, which is the ball of cells over there. Then we're going to have a blastocyst, which forms. Eventually, this is going to be implanted into the endometrium. And finally, the implanted embryo, which is going to be from day 9 to about week 8, is going to be forming over there. This is on page 31 of your notes. Yes, Palesa, it's the notes that I put on a while ago. It's, just read through, you'll find it. Finally, when the blastocyst is attached to the endometrium, we call it an embryo. We said that earlier. And here's just some terminology for you. So zygote is once this egg is fertilized. A morula is once the zygote starts dividing by mitosis. It's a solid ball of cells. Then we have the blastocyst, which once it reaches the uterus, a hollow ball of cells. An embryo from time of implantation up to 8 weeks old, organs are differentiating. And finally, we have the fetus, which is week 9 until birth. And this is where the organs are specializing. Okay. All right. That's how I'm going to end this. This is nice and easy. It's just so that you guys are getting used to the terminology. The next one, we're going to be talking about gestation. So we're going to be talking about how the embryo develops over the weeks, what develops when, why, how. When does hair form? Why is there a gooey layer around you while you're developing? We're going to look at the choroid. We're going to look at the development of a placenta and its importance. Okay, so I hope you guys are still enjoying this. Have a great day. Look after yourselves. Bye.